3, 2.
Hello everyone, I'm Perrin Leach, the Managing Director of Houston Grand Opera, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you're here to join us for another Friday night of digital content from Houston Grand Opera. If it's your first time, then welcome. If it's your second time, third time, welcome back. It's really thrilling to do these performances and to share our art with you. This is the place where the pre-show where we'll introduce tonight's performance. We'll give you some background about what you're going to see. And the main event, of course, starts at 7:30 Central. And because of the internet outage in Houston, we're asking people to watch through Marquee TV tonight. You don't have to do very much different. Their web address is marquee.tv. You can also find the link at hgo.org/digital. And if you go to either of those things, you'll be able to watch the performance. Tonight's performance features Reginald Smith, or Reggie as everyone knows him, and Richard Bado. They're both HGO Studio alumni. Just a few years between the two of them being in the studio together, but they are both studio alumni. Reggie was last here singing Amonasro last season in Aida on our main stage. Absolutely stunning performance, and his recital program is so interesting and so eclectic. I'm really thrilled about it. We couldn't do any of this without the support of Ernest and Sarah Butler. This is the Ernest and Sarah Butler Performance Series, HGO Digital, and they gave a hugely generous gift to underwrite our entire season of digital output, and we're very, very grateful to them. They probably are watching in Austin. I can't see them, but they're probably watching in Austin, but really they made this happen. As someone coined wittily internally, the Butlers did it, and they certainly did, and we're deeply grateful to them for their support. In addition to that, we also want to thank Vincent Elkins. Vincent Elkins are a legendary law firm within Houston, Texas. They've been amazing supporters of Houston Grand Opera, and we're deeply grateful to V&E for their support of this program tonight. You all make this program possible, but V&E and Ernest and Sarah Butler, thank you so much for all of that support. The showcase will start again at 7:30 on Marquee TV. But first, let me introduce the person who's going to talk you through what we're going to see tonight, HGO's wonderful dramaturg, Jeremy Johnson. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, Baron. Good to see you. How you doing?
Hanging in there. Yeah. It's the one time a week I have to put a shirt on, so I'm okay.
Yeah, but still no pants, so it's fine. Yeah.
No pants, of course.
Yeah.
Let's not go crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, over to you, and I'll see you just before the show. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Baron. All right, before we get into the program tonight, let me take a minute to remind all of you watching here on Facebook or YouTube that this video you're watching right now, if you're hearing me say these words, this video is not where the recital is going to take place. This is our pre-show stream. The performance itself will be streamed on HGO's website and through Marquee TV. But as Perrin just mentioned, the HGO's website is down for internet shortages in Houston, so go to marquee.tv. You can still go to hgo.org/digital, and you'll be redirected to marquee.tv for the performance tonight. If you have any questions or comments during the pre-show, feel free to type them into the comment boxes on Facebook or on YouTube. We'll be able to see them and respond on here live. Without further ado, let's jump into learning a bit more about tonight's program. Tonight, we'll be treated to a recital by baritone Reginald Smith Jr., Reggie, as we all know him, who is joined at the piano by HGO's Director of Artistic Operations and Chorus Master, Richard Bado. Reggie is at the beginning of an important career as a Verdi baritone. He graduated from the Houston Grand Opera Studio 5 years ago, and the last 5 years have seen him make noteworthy debuts with companies such as the Dallas Opera, the Atlanta Opera, Lyric Opera of Chicago, the Metropolitan Opera, and Opera Hong Kong. He sung roles such as Giorgio Germont in La Traviata, Sharpless in Madama Butterfly, the Count in The Marriage of Figaro. But a key role for him over the last few years has been Amonasro in Verdi's Aida, the title role's father and commander of the Ethiopian forces, which he sung quite a few times and is scheduled to sing again over the next few seasons. That's also the role he has sung most recently with Houston Grand Opera last season with Tamara Wilson in the title role. Here's a quick clip of Reggie and Tammy singing a portion of Aida and Amonasro's duet in which they plan to entrap Radames, Aida's love, to learn the location of the Egyptian army. It's a great clip. I love the both of them singing that. I love that they were the first two recitalists of the Live in the Cullen series as part of HGO Digital. Tammy sang our September recital, and Reggie, of course, singing tonight. And they both performed in Aida, the last Brown stage performance that we had before the pandemic shut us down. So it's great to welcome them both back, and we're so excited. I can't wait for you all to hear Reggie tonight. He's a spectacular singer, and he knocks it out of the park in this recital. Before he returned to HGO to sing Amanazaro in Aida, Reggie was a member of our HGO Studio program for 2 seasons, from 2013 to 2015. He sang quite a few roles with us in those seasons, including Marullo in Rigoletto and the Bonds in Madama Butterfly. Before he went on stage to record his recital live in the Cullen, I had a chance to sit down with Reggie and talk to him about his time in the studio and about his recital. Here's what he had to say when I asked him about his favorite memory of being in the HGO studio.
You know, I would say one of my favorite moments was when I was singing the role of Don Cayer in Carmen, because my mother was able to come to that's the first show she came to at Houston Grand Opera. So it was really special to me to have my mother in the audience and to see me on the big stage in the big house. So it was really an exciting time.
That's great. Well, now Reggie's loved ones can watch him from the comfort of their own living rooms as we stream his recital straight to audiences tonight. Reggie actually hails from Atlanta, Georgia, so his family might be able to see him live in just a few weeks. Later this month, Reggie performs the role of Tonio in Leoncavallo's Pagliacci as a company player with the Atlanta Opera. Like Houston Grand Opera and every other arts organization during the pandemic, Atlanta had to think creatively to continue performing, and what they've done is they've set up a tent on the field of a university stadium in order to perform for a limited and distanced audience. We wish them the best, and certainly if you're watching tonight from the Atlanta area, we hope you'll go see our beloved HGO Studio alum Reggie Smith Jr. sing the role of Tonio. And actually, he'll be singing opposite another HGO Studio alum, Richard Trey Smager, who will be singing the tenor role of Canio. I love that Reggie's going to be singing the role of Tonio. I heard Reggie sing that role in a cover run when he and I very first met the summer of 2013. We met at Opera Theater of St. Louis, and I immediately fell in love with Reggie's voice, and I've been a big fan of his ever since then. So it kind of full circle that the summer before he started HGO, he was covering the role of Tonio in Pagliacci that summer in St. Louis, and then he started at HGO, and now he's singing it again. The same month he's singing a recital for us here. Great timing for Reggie all around. Here's a quick reminder for those of you just tuning in that this stream is not the performance stream. This is our pre-show stream. The performance itself will be streamed on HGO's website and through Marquee TV. You have 3 options for watching the recital itself. 1, download the Marquee TV app on your smart device and create a login. 2, you can go directly to marquee.tv in a web browser. Simply create a login and you can access the whole HGO season for free. Or number 3, go to hgo.org/digital. Our website's down for internet issues right now, but if you go to that webpage, you'll be redirected to marquee.tv. You can use your HGO login credentials or create an HGO login, and you can watch the whole season there for free as well at hgo.org/digital. Again, if you have any questions or comments during the pre-show tonight, feel free to type them into the comment boxes on Facebook or YouTube. We'll be able to see them and respond on here live. Let's get into tonight's recital program. We're only 19 minutes away from the release of Reggie's recital, the second recital of HGO Digital's Live from the Cullen, part of the Sarah and Ernest Butler performance series. Before we get to the release itself, let's talk a little bit about what you'll hear tonight. Reggie has programmed a recital of music all composed by Black composers, and the style of music in the recital varies from a late German Romantic tradition in the songs of Robert Owens, to French Creole songs in the arrangements of Camille Nickerson, to contemporary arrangements of African-American spirituals. There's a lot of great history to talk about with this recital's repertoire, so let's jump in. The first set of songs Reggie programmed was composed by Robert Owens to poems by the late 19th and early 20th century German poet Hermann Hesse. The three poems were written by Hesse around 1905 or 1910, and Robert Owens set them to music about 90 years later in 1998 while he was living in Germany. Owens was born in Texas, but grew up in California. He served in the military during World War II, and he actually learned German while he was serving from some of the prisoners of war that he had contact with. After the war, he moved to Paris in 1946 to study piano at the École de Musique. His mother actually was a pianist by trade, and he had studied the piano since the age of 4 and wrote his first compositions by the age of 8. So when Robert Owens joined the military for the war, but he was no stranger to a musical life when the war ended and he moved to Paris to continue his musical studies. He became a concert pianist in the early 1950s in Europe. And then in 1957, he was offered a position back in the United States teaching music at Albany State College in Georgia. It was during this time that he got connected with Langston Hughes and set some of his poetry to music. But Owens' position in the United States lasted only 2 years, and he left the US after that. He was stifled by the oppressive racism of the South, and the racial segregation of the era made teaching music nearly impossible. His school was burned down before he arrived to teach there, and the tensions in the segregated South in the late 1950s were such that Owens left as soon as he could. So in 1959, he left the United States and lived the rest of his life in Germany. Owens did speak French and German, and the three songs you'll hear tonight are in German, but they're actually more of an exception than the rule. Most of Owens' art song repertoire is in the English language. His songs became very popular in Europe for American expat singers who performed his songs throughout the continent in the late 20th century. He also became, amazingly, the first American composer to have an opera commissioned by the Theater Neubau in Ulm, Germany. It premiered in 1970. It's titled Kultur, or Culture, Culture. It was never actually published until a doctoral candidate at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln came across a set of songs by Robert Owens that she fell in love with, but she couldn't really find out anything about the composer whose career had almost entirely been spent in Europe. They became pen pals and over time good friends, and she applied for and won a grant to have Robert Owens' only opera engraved for publishing. So the two of them also worked together to translate the opera from the original German into English. Though the three songs you'll hear tonight were written in 1998, they do have an element of late 19th century German Romanticism in their musical aesthetic, no doubt inspired by Hesse's beautifully vivid poetry. But though out of the late German Romantic tradition, Owens certainly imprints his own unique compositional style. Listen for an almost Schumann-esque harmonic aesthetic, but then also listen for how Owens writes the vocal line to rather consistently sit right on top of the harmonic movement on notes that are maybe 1 or 2 steps away from the chord itself. These extended chordal dissonances add a really stunningly beautiful effect to Hesse's text, which Reggie did talk a bit about when we chatted the other day. Here's what he had to say about these songs and Hesse's text, which I told him are new to me, these songs. I loved learning about them, and they're likely new to many of our audience members as well.
Well, Robert Owens is a fantastic composer who unfortunately is no longer with us, but he left a wide variety of repertoire. African-American composer Robert Owens is also known for his jazz works, for his works on stage. And particularly, he's known for his song settings, such like the ones that you'll hear tonight. These songs have a beautiful sense of longing to them. And so I love this German text by Hermann Hesse that speaks to this longing and yearning of this person. So I hope you enjoy these new songs to many people in the audience as well.
Following the 3 songs by Robert Owens, Reggie has programmed 3 traditional Creole songs that were arranged by New Orleans-born composer and singer Camille Nickerson. Nickerson performed under the stage name The Louisiana Lady, where she would lecture about the Creole music she compiled and arranged. First a singer and academic before a composer and arranger, Nickerson received her master's degree from Oberlin for her thesis on Afro-Creole music in Louisiana. Prior to Nickerson's work in compiling and writing them down, Southern U.S. Black Creole songs were only learned and passed down orally. Thanks to Nickerson's pioneering work, we still have these fabulous melodies and her amazing arrangements of them to cherish in performance. The 3 that Reggie picked out are only a sampling of the Creole songs that Nickerson championed. The 3 you'll hear tonight range in style from fun and silly to incredibly heartfelt and sincere. The first, titled Monsieur Banjo in Creole, or Mr. Banjo in English, is a satire on race and class. The object of the speaker's satirical disdain is a mixed-race dandy strolling down the street. Now, the speaker makes fun of the dandy for walking around so proudly and insolently with his fancy clothes, hat, cane, handkerchief, and so on. The satire, though, is that the dandy is mixed race and would therefore have been the subject of racist vitriol for perhaps having some of the social and economic opportunities to become a well-dressed dandy, but at that time certainly held down from truly being accepted in a higher class in society due to his blackness. So even though the Creole speaker is making fun of the dandy for his nice clothes, the satire is there about race and class in these songs. The second song you'll hear is a gorgeous melody, a love song to the speaker's dear Lisette as she leaves the country for the city. He begs her not to go, or at least not to be fooled by the sweet-talking city slickers that she'll meet there. And the final song is a fun love song that Reggie gives a little sneak peek of. Here's what he had to say about programming these 3 amazing Creole songs.
And so I decided to throw in 3 of these songs by Camille Nickerson. They're arrangements of traditional Creole songs and melodies. Mostly you hear from the people in the Louisiana, Haitian sort of background. But they're also songs that are charming, that speak about love and how, you know, the last one says, if you love me, I'll be like a pig in mud. I mean, how could you not love that sentiment?
Yeah, that's how my wife fell in love with me. I told her I loved her like a pig in mud. So we go from German to Creole, and now Reggie ends the recital with 2 sets in English. The first set is a 6-song group titled Night Songs, composed by H. Leslie Adams, to 6 poems by 5 Black poets, all associated with the Harlem Renaissance. The first 2 poems are by Langston Hughes, and the remaining 4 in order are by Georgia Douglas Johnson, Clarissa Scott Delaney, James Weldon Johnson, and Leslie Morgan Collins, all fabulous poets associated with the Harlem Renaissance in the early 20th century. H. Leslie Adams, born in 1932 in Cleveland, Ohio, and still alive today at 87 years old, composed Night Songs in 1961, a group of 6 songs that is also sometimes referred to as 6 Afro-American songs. Adams originally titled the piece Songs on the Text of African-American Poets, but found the title too long and cumbersome, so he renamed them Night Songs. I've been calling them a group of songs instead of a song cycle, because that was the preference of Adams himself in an interview he gave in the early 2000s. He said they weren't a cycle in the sense that they don't have a through line or a narrative that ties them all together, but he says that they do have a link between each of the 6. This is a quote that he said of the songs. Night songs are just a group of poems that share a theme. All poets are Black. All express a particular cultural experience. The poems were written at a time when there was more of an ethnic commonality. Black people at that time felt more connected. He says this of the Harlem Renaissance writers, yet he also says this in his goal in the music was that he was writing for these poems was to express the Black experience in music to poetry by those Harlem Renaissance writers that were part of that amplification of the intellectual and artistic movement that was centering Black voices. Part of H. Leslie Adams' musical aesthetic in these songs to express the Black experience is to draw on characteristics of African American spirituals, characteristics that you should listen for in these 6 songs, such as intense syncopation or soaring vocal lines over relatively heavy rhythmic movement in the piano, or like in the first number of the set, a very slow and expansive hymn-like harmonic movement. Even though Adams draws on characteristics of traditional spirituals, these are not spirituals, nor are they contemporary arrangements of traditional African American spirituals. And that's an important distinction to make. Contrary to pretty unfortunately popular belief, not all songs by Black composers are spirituals or arrangements of spirituals. These 6 songs by H. Leslie Adams are contemporary art songs written to poetry by Harlem Renaissance poets and are entirely in the amazing compositional voice of H. Leslie Adams. I have to say, I think these might be my favorite songs on the recital. They're some of my favorite art songs in general, especially the 5th of the 6 songs titled Since You Went Away. Listen for how Reggie interprets that incredibly moving poetry set to some of the most luxurious music you'll hear. Listen also in that song for the half-step modulation as Reggie, the music, and the poetry get more and more impassioned. You always gotta love a good half-step modulation. After those 6 songs by H. Leslie Adams, Reggie does program 3 spirituals for us. The traditionals are arranged by 3 different composers and arrangers, whose names you can find in the downloadable program at hgo.org/digital. These 3 spirituals are a fantastic ending to Reggie's recital. First, the fervent plea, "It's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer," followed by a stunning arrangement of the always beautiful spiritual "Steal Away," and ending with the upbeat "Ain't a That Good News." I asked Reggie what he wanted you all to take away from his recital program tonight. Here's what he had to say.
You know, when I was thinking of a theme in my mind for this recital, I thought yearning and longing, and then eventually there's some sort of redemption. There's something to look forward to. I also wanted to program music by African American composers. And so I wanted to highlight that repertoire and that music as well. But also, since we are all going through this yearning, longing, quarantine time, to know that there is some hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is some good news. It's, hopefully how we'll end this recital. We'll find out.
We definitely end the recital with good news, and it's an amazing arrangement of that spiritual, and Reggie sings it phenomenally. So excited for you all to hear him tonight. A quick reminder for everyone watching that this stream, if you're hearing me talk on Facebook or on YouTube, this stream is not going to be the performance itself. This is our pre-show stream. The performance will be streamed on Marquee.tv. You'll be redirected there on HGO's website at hgo.org/digital. Thank you to everyone for joining me tonight for the pre-show. I hope you had a good time hearing about the incredible music Reggie and Richard will perform for you. I want to say another thank you to all of our HGO patrons and supporters, especially to Vincent and Elkins LLP and Glenn Rosenbaum for supporting tonight's recital, as well as Sarah and Ernest Butler for underwriting our HGO Digital season. And now we'll bring Perrin back on to say hello again and kick us off for tonight's presentation. Welcome back, Perrin.
Hey, Jeremy. Thank you for that amazing talk, and it was lovely to hear Reggie as well. That's fantastic to just hear and see his personality as he bursts off the screen.
Yeah,
thank you for all our viewers for joining us tonight. Jeremy always does an amazing pre-show before our performances. Always try and plan to join us because I always learn stuff, and it's always great when you can learn from people who are smarter than you. And in Jeremy, we certainly have somebody who's smarter than me. It's about time to go to our performances now. Again, as Jeremy's told you, we're live on Marquee TV. The direct link is hgo.org/digital. We're so excited to experience this performance tonight. And if you haven't logged into your accounts, now's a really good time to go and do that because it's just about to start. thank you for joining our watch party, and really just enjoy this amazing artist and listen to the music that some of which you won't have heard before, but just let yourself bathe in it, in his beautiful warm tones, and turn your air conditioning up because you'll be getting plenty hot enough bathing in those warm tones. But thanks for joining us. Thank you to Sarah and Ernest Butler for the performance series. Thank you to V&E for being our supporters for this evening's recital, and have a great time. Thank you.